from Good Shepherd Auditorium in Inwood, New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where you meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome flamenco dancer and choreographer Xianix Barrera. Xianix is a Bessie Award-nominated flamenco dancer, teacher, and choreographer based here in New York City. Female empowerment, sexual identity, and social justice color her choreographic work and create the focal point for the company she founded in 2012. With background in dance and percussive studies, she has dedicated herself to the lifelong study of flamenco with a master's of the art form in both New York and Spain. Throughout her career, she has worked with revered artists such as Isabel Bayón, Raquel Heredia, Rosario Toledo, Soledad, Barrio, and Juan, Ogalla on some of the most important stages in the world, including the Joyce Theater, Lincoln Center, the Revered Theater in Abu Dhabi, and Café Silverio in Sevilla. Xianix is a dedicated teacher with a thriving flamenco school in New York City for people of all ages, levels, and abilities while conducting workshops for the Joyce Theater and New York City Center during their annual Flamenco Festival. We're going to talk to her about her work and so much more, but first, let me welcome you, Xianix, to Inwood Artworks On Air. Great to see you.
You too. I'm excited.
Thanks for making it out today on this kind of a rainy Inwood day here in the city.
6th weekend in a row.
Oh, we were just talking about that. And last time I saw her, she was performing for us with her students and other professionals at the Hispanic Society for Hispanic Heritage Month. So kind of great to put the button on it here and bring you back for that. And so you were born and raised in Washington Heights. I don't think a lot of people know that, which is bustling with a great variety of Spanish culture.
Yes.
But not so much from Spain.
Yeah.
So how did you discover the world of flamenco, or did it discover you?
Well, I think actually both. I guess growing up, I had some reference, the flowers and the skirts and things like that. But it wasn't until I saw it on PBS.
There you go, folks.
PBS, Riverdance. Do you remember Riverdance?
Michael Flatley, right?
Hello, you're Irish. I would hope.
I'm Irish, yes.
I would hope you know.
Yes, Flatley, for sure.
But they were giving Riverdance on PBS. And so they have, obviously, the Irish step dancing. They have tap and this Russian kind of dance. And then they had flamenco. And so the dancer is Maria Pajes. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I vividly remember going to the mirror and like trying to copy what she was doing. And it was actually a friend who said, I told him about it. And he's like, you can take classes downtown. And I was like, really? Because I just knew what you did in school. I didn't know, mom didn't have the funds to do any extracurricular things outside of school, right? So I started January 5th, 2005. I'll never forget. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I think within a few months, I was like, okay, I think I want to do this. And then I met actually another Dominican girl in class. And she was like, loca, you got to go to Spain. Like, Spain is amazing. You got to go to Sevilla. They're like our people, whatever. Shout out to Jumilka. And I was like, what? So then again, the concept of, going outside of Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, that's where you travel to, right? Outside of that, I wasn't raised with that idea. So I graduated college. I worked 3 jobs that summer, Monday through Sunday, like every day. And I saved up $4,000 to go for a month.
Changed your life.
Changed my life. So I was like, okay, we got to do this. And ever since then, I'd go every other year. And
working 3 jobs to get there.
Yeah, you do what you got to do. You got to hustle, right?
Yeah, you do.
And I would save money, and I would go for a few months, and then come back and study here and save, and so it was like rinse and repeat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who would have thought 7 years later you'd have your own company?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It's very, very cool.
Well, when people think of the flamenco form, they think of something rich in tradition. Might even expect dance of like a classical theater kind of nature. What I enjoy about your work explores very contemporary themes, as well as classical, of course. And as I talked about a little bit in your bio, female empowerment, social justice, queer themes,
Yeah.
in your choreographic work, and it's become a focal point for your company.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious, bringing in the contemporary perspective. That was only one can because it's you. Where do you begin in developing an idea for a work? Do you have guideposts in a process? And would you like to work or explore? Do you start with collaboration? Just curious how you put things together.
Yeah, it's. I'd love to know too, because I don't even have a. But I guess the projects that I've done have started, I guess, very specific reasons. Like, I was invited to be a part of this show called Flamenco Rosado, which dealt with the intersectionality of, sexuality and flamenco and, identity. And so that's how I got into that theme there. And then shortly after that, I was accepted into the Emerging Choreographer series. And I applied with the idea of doing like a group number, traditional with the shawl and, happy dance and whatever. And then once I got accepted, they're like, that's nice, but do you want to, go somewhere else, right? And tackling, with the Franco era with Spain, there's a lot of machismo, and I mean, still now, right? We're doing better, right, and breaking those barriers down. But in terms of flamenco at the time, stories and portrayals of, same-sex couples or same-sex love, things like that, wasn't very prominent.
It was taboo, you could say, even, right?
So, at the time I was in a same-sex relationship, and I, wanted to see what would happen if it was also stepping outside for myself, and it was scary, of course. I didn't know what to expect. So it was a challenge for me. I'm usually up for a challenge. And it, for the Emerging Choreographer series, it paid off. We did, I ended up doing a remake on Pygmalion, the story of Pygmalion, right?
I mean, flamenco and George Bernard Shaw go hand in hand. I mean, come on, right?
Yeah, but even more so the Greek version,
Sure.
where the sculptor,
myth, right.
Creates this beautiful statue, falls in love with her, and so I said, well, would that be if it was like a same-sex idea? So I was a sculptor, and the sculptor was a woman, and with a kiss she brings me to life. And what does that mean in terms of the sculptor taking ownership of the sculpture, right? You're mine, where are you? And the sculpture is kind of saying, what is this? What is life? Who is this person? So, and in 10 minutes, 10-minute piece,
Yeah, you don't get a whole 2-act play for this.
No. And for that, I actually brought in one of the 5 maybe female guitarists, flamenco guitarists in the world. And she's the top. Her name is Antonia Jimenez, and who's also a gay woman. And so that was very cool to have that theme. And then with one of the few female, which is also another taboo thing, right? Because men tend to dominate the guitar in flamenco, right? And now we're seeing more women taking that role in, being lead flamenco guitarists. So I don't know where, to answer your question, I don't know where it comes from. Different, things. Like, for example, now I've been tackling and trying to put forth this idea that's been in me for at least 4 years.
Which is
kintsugi.
Okay.
Kintsugi is the Japanese art of mending broken pottery with gold lacquer. right? And the philosophy behind it is that instead of, hiding the cracks and concealing it, you are highlighting them and painting them with gold. So now this piece that you would, when it breaks, you would tend to throw it away, or it's less valuable, actually becomes more valuable, more beautiful, more interesting, because it's been put back together and its history is highlighted, in the vessel. And I'm a fan of Elizabeth Gilbert, Eat, Pray, Love. She wrote this book called Big Magic, and she says that ideas plant themselves into people, hoping that they will, bring those ideas forth. And if that person does not, then the idea will leave them and implant themselves in somebody else. And that's how you can get like multiple people having the same idea, but then one person is the one that actually. So I'm so afraid that somebody's gonna,
We're a country. We're artists. All of us. We're a lot of dreamers, but there are out of all those dreamers, there are very few doers.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea needs to go. So I was like, I need to do this thing, and I tried when I was pregnant, and I was pregnant during the pandemic, and that was just not happening. And my friend, she was like, "You're doing enough creativity within yourself. It makes sense why."
That's a whole different kind of production.
Yeah, that's a whole different. It's okay.
Just focus on yourself.
So with this same choreography program, I just got invited to do it again because they're doing an alumni year, and I'm like, okay, now I have to do it. So now I'm in the research, process of like different cultures that deal with breaking, right? So for example, the Greeks, when something breaks, opa, right? Or the Jews, when you get married, you step on the glass. Or I just learned this the other day. I guess I never put the two together, but Puerto Ricans, when something breaks, they clap.
Sure.
Or
land a plane.
And the plane, right? And also like the idea that, when something breaks, like it releases negative energy.
Mm-hmm.
So
it becomes a celebration, right?
So it's like all these things. And then how do you translate that philosophy, that idea, into flamenco?
Interesting, because it'll never be the same again, but whatever form it does take. I'm curious too, like there's a fork in the road a little bit, right? You can either go the direction of trying to put it back as it was, or you can take the pieces and begin something new.
Exactly right. Yeah. And there's some artists that will put together different pieces of different vessels and make something completely new. And then there's like in the Native American, there's a tribe that makes, I guess, like the quilts or the rugs, and they will purposely make a mistake in a section to kind of say like, we're not all perfect. Or in putting clothes together, mending them together, that there's different fabrics you can put together to make something new. So that's where I'm at now. Like, how can I translate that into a flamenco theatrical production?
Yeah. Pygmalion Part 2.
Pygmalion Part 2. Like, I don't...
I mean, sculpture. I mean, you're kind of right there in a way, right?
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so each one, like, bleeds off into the other.
Right.
And now I'm a mother, right? So that's a whole different...
Yeah.
Those themes definitely will be in there somehow. Because there's so many changes that happened, and obviously the pandemic changes there, but so I'm excited to see what comes of that.
Well, I love the idea, and thank you. You did answer the question very nicely, and also too is that it kind of wraps into the previous question a little bit too about the ideas about tradition and new forms, kind of like Chekhov. Right. We need new forms like Siegel, and also continuously like exploring the boundaries of where are we and where can we be going, and bringing back the idea of bringing Antonio Jimenez, like you did with the Mujeres piece, which was like
Right.
all female, right? It was an
Right.
all female piece, kind of like the form is not only the way you're pushing boundaries. You're pushing boundaries by inviting other people in with different backgrounds,
Right.
and also and how those people working together collaboratively, confronting identity, like who you are,
Right.
like that piece was, right, very much so, and then and what resonates with today's audience is by also introducing them to the Japanese culture.
Yeah.
I mean, and how it can be put together and resonate. I mean, who hasn't picked up the pieces and trying to start over again, right?
Absolutely.
Metaphor for so many things.
Totally. And we do want to hide sometimes, but that's a way of connecting. That you can see someone's resilience through whatever trauma or whatever experiences that they've gone through, that you would think, what was something that broke you?
Yeah.
But did it really? Maybe it broke you at the moment, but you came out of that.
Yeah.
And what you are who you are now because of whatever you've gone through, no? So.
And are they scars or are they just texture to your life?
Totally.
Right.
Beautifully said.
Well, God. I'm available. But to be hired, that is. My wife would kill me otherwise. But also what you said, I mean, it's really great. We're really on the same wavelength. It's about connecting people, right?
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to connect people. And your company and you, obviously you're kind of like the focal point, and you're the engine, if you will, of your company, for better or for worse, right? I know
We do it all.
I can relate,
Yeah.
which had its own risks and responsibilities, right? By going alone and doing, but inviting people in
Right.
as well. And so what have you learned on the putting your producer hat on for a second and on the producing side of ways of finding ways to engage audiences and bringing them into this work?
It's not easy.
But if it was, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah,
like
no,
the
you're
dreamers,
totally
like
right.
the dreamers and doers thing, right?
Yeah, it really takes, humility to be able to ask for help and admit I cannot physically, mentally, emotionally do it all by myself. Right. And then as you can relate, producer, marketing, choreographer, and the dancer, and setting things up, breaking things down. It's just, where do you find the time? And usually for me, the dancing is what suffers because I'll do everything else.
Yeah.
And then.
Sure.
Then
Don't
I'll
forget
do
the admin work too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, all the admin stuff.
Writing the checks.
Yeah, it's like.
I mean,
And then,
going to the post office, mailing the checks,
and at what point do you
tax returns.
Yeah, dance and create.
Oh, you got to dance too, right?
And rehearse what you've done. And
Right.
So while directing, so you're being in it, and so how do the movie directors who act in the movie? How do they?
Well, I think
I'd love to know.
I can speak for having you and I also have a storied career in that sense too. I had directed myself in something I acted in
Okay.
way back. I'm talking like straight out of college kind of thing.
Okay.
Professionally though. And, you can't, I think I said this before on a podcast too, you can't just focus on your role. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's really impossible because you see everything no matter what. And whether you like it or not, your attention is not 100%. It can't be. I mean, it's just actually just, as much as you may have supreme focus and be in the moment, for whatever it is and whatever scene or dance or song you're singing, whatever. But you always have that hyper, like we call it awareness, third eye, if you will, about what's going on with everybody, right? And why isn't she down there 2 feet down further, kind of thing, and
Right.
the earring fell off on that one,
Right.
and that light's not working. So then oh my gosh, did I park in the right place? Is the meter out? You know what I mean? So I mean,
I'll be right
did I do
back.
laundry today? Like you're thinking of all these things, just like,
Yeah.
or do we get the dry cleaning for the actors, whatever? It's a lot. So I mean, it is hard doing all that, but the marketing thing I want to touch on because like I feel coming out of the pandemic, I feel we've habitually trained people to stay at home. Not we as the world,
Right.
not we as producers, but unfortunately we were hamstrung. And And I think many of us made the right choices to stay at home and to do things virtually as much as the world allowed us to do. And staying safe is number one.
Right.
But there are repercussions to that.
Yeah.
And so I found people, it's hard. How do you get people to come out to see your shows? I have the hardest time too.
Yeah. You just have to keep promoting, keep showing, I like to do one-on-one. Hey, I'm going to be here.
Right.
We would love your support.
But how much time do you have to do that while you're doing everything else, right? I hear you.
If you do like a group text or if you do a group email, like a big blast, people, getting bombarded all the time, all day, every day with stuff, right? So I found that, reaching out individually, whether it's a quick text, a call, an email, say, I would love to see you, how's the family, whatever, things like that. I would love your support, even if you can't make it, share the video, something like that, but it takes a lot.
Yeah, sure does. Getting back to your work for a second. So you're born and raised in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Has the neighborhood found its way into your work at all? Has it influenced you? I mean, obviously each person has, but as an artist, has it found its way into your work at all?
I mean, not.
You can say no. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, my culture, being Puerto Rican and Dominican. For mujeres, I did a piece. So in flamenco, we have these round trip rhythms. They're called ida y vuelta, right? So there's a lot of Cuban, Argentinian, Latin American, rhythms that we find. So I did one of those in the show, and I, wrapped my hair, and I had an altar, with my ancestors there and candles and things like that. But maybe that's next. How would you include Washington Heights or Inwood?
Well, we do it right now. It's you, and we're at Good Shepherd. True. I live here. Come on. I mean, how much more can it be? Our editor, and everybody, we're all local here for the most part. But then it's always good to invite people in from elsewhere as well. Yeah. I mean, if not anything, we're a bustling, moving, cornucopia of fruit flavors here, and
for sure, melting pot over here.
Melting pot is the term for sure. But yeah, I think too, like going back to because I want to tie it into the audience question too, because I think you have to listen to people and talk to people. And I love the fact that you said one-on-one, because every day, like just walking down here, ran into a photographer who's been on the podcast, ran into somebody else who, two people who've come to our outdoor movie screenings, and they say, they're not bashful to tell you what they like. But they're more unbashful, I should say, or direct to tell you what they didn't like or don't like. Well, I mean, points like, you know what you should have, or I shouldn't say, it's not what you didn't like. It's more along the lines like, what you should show, what you should do. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I said, when can you show up? Right. And when can you help out? And by the way, these are the dates, right? Okay, so when are you available to be there? And then they're like, oh, well, it's just always a good idea. And then it's like, well, sure. But I love the fact, but you have to be open to that, right? And because it's great you can and talk about the work and talk about the dance and how it connects and saying and going, oh, how do you include things? How do I include your thoughts? How do I include your culture? I just yesterday, speaking of Irish, one of the people for the Ancient Order of the Hibernians Society approached me, Irish Society. I'm not a member, just so you know, or anything. And they said, oh, you did a great movie last year of what did we do? We did Waking Ned Divine outside, and producers from Ireland gave us the permission to do the show, and they're like, "We would love to do a show with you next year outside. Our members came to that, and we would love for you to do how can we get involved and stuff like that." So the point is, like, that's how you and just talk to people, and hopefully things evolve, and we should talk about it for our next thing together. We can figure out how we can do something up here. East Harlem or West Harlem or Uptown in general. It's got to be Uptown, though. It's got to be Uptown. Downtown's got its own scene, right?
They got their own, their own lives.
Totally. So we talked about your next thing, possibly, and I encourage you to go forth and make this happen. And are you going to be touring coming out again? Or, I mean, you have a family, so it's a different, different thing.
But I am itching to do, because my baby's 2 now, and I'm ready to dance again. Wheels on the bus go.
Right.
Like,
Well, we'll produce you and you can focus on dancing. All right.
no, I mean, I love being with him and I want to, enjoy, but there's also that creative need to focus on something without the constant distraction. And,
Yeah.
Daycare is so
Yeah.
expensive. So I have to hold out another year. But in the meantime, so with this, I'm hoping going back to the choreographer series and, I'm only supposed to do between 30 and 45 minutes. So it's like the first draft of what potentially can grow into a full length show. And if I can tour that, I was supposed to have a tour 2020.
Well,
And
yeah.
we were going to go to 3 or 4 cities and do our thing. And it didn't work out. But the thought of it, and I was like, it was hard, to plan everything. But I did it, so I'm excited to possibly do that again. And if I can do that with my own show, that would be
Hey, a 35, 40-minute
cool.
show is great to tour. That'd be great.
I saw a show with this prominent flamenco dancer who's actually at the Hispanic Society. He did a show. His name is Israel Galvan, in front of the building with sand. He had sand all over the floor, and it was just him. Flamenco, avant-garde, contemporary. And his show was 40 minutes. And we're used to an hour and a half,
Right.
2-hour
Or multiple sets at least. Yeah.
shows. And I was like, that was perfect. I did not need any more, any less. So maybe now,
I think society has given us permission to have shorter shows now. I mean, with the
our
internet,
attention span
the
is...
TikTok era, we'll call them. I mean, whatever it is. Right. It's where, I mean, at the film festival, we do the shorts, which are films under 5 minutes. Everybody's favorite, always. And they're not even the best pieces all the time, but they just love them.
Yeah.
They're sold out every year.
Yeah.
So maybe you got something there. Again, the contemporary merging with the traditional again, and the forms. Mm-hmm. Well, we look forward to your 45-minute show and seeing what happens. So where can we send people to see this show when it comes out, whatever? Where on the web can we send people to keep tabs with you?
My
and your
website is
company?
Xianix.com. I also have, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I caved in. I was like, I'm never going to do TikTok.
See, I got to hire a 20-year-old to run TikTok for me. It's like, I just don't have the bandwidth. But maybe you could show me.
I just watch. I don't really even. But yeah, I'm on all of those. Xianix Barrera Flamenco. And then the show that's scheduled to come out, it'll be in April 2024 at El Barrio's Art Space where I live.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, you have your marching orders. Go bookmark it, follow her. But she's not going to follow you on TikTok. Sorry. She's got too much going on. All right.
Or maybe.
Well, thanks again, Xianix, for being a guest
Aaron.
here.
This was awesome.
You betcha. So once again, Xianix Barrera for all of us here at Inwood Artworks On Air. This is an artist spotlight episode of Inwood Artworks On Air where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home here in northern Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now and rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. That really does help. Also, many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here for hosting us and to HideSites.com for uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate or via Venmo at Inwood Artworks. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. And Inwood Artworks programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.